Good evening and welcome back to our Rex Fuels channel, where we discuss issues and trends facing the oil and gas industry. If you're new to the channel, kindly like, subscribe, and share to stay up to date with the current trends. We have with us today Pranav Khan, a veteran in the oil and gas sector. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back again.
Pleasure to have you here as always.
Thank you.
Well, before we start, congratulations on your predicted outcome of last week's crude update. Crude oil prices fell by about 10%. My questions that follow after that is, do you think the fall will continue?
Yeah, first and foremost, thanks. It feels good to have called the markets right and not for the first time. But if we look into it, the larger picture behind the way the market or the prices are moving, and we are talking Brent, is single most important factor being the China factor. As we have been maintaining for many months now on this forum, that China continues to surprise on the downside. So the China story or the peak China story is behind us. So we are going to continue the will continue to witness China demand side disappointing onto the downside, while the markets have been equally keen to observe China and try to make sense out of it. And whenever any kind of positive news comes, which means the recent example being the softening of the �COVID-0 policy or the supposed softening of the �COVID-0 policy, market reacted little too bullishly. So basically trying to clutch at the straws. So that is, in our opinion, not happening. China will continue to surprise on the downside. That being said, China has traditionally been the largest importer of the crude and much higher than the USA. And when we put the top three importers of the crude oil in the world, it is China, followed by US, followed by India. Now, China is half of these three countries. And if that continues to disappoint, macro of demand and supply are going to be in a bit of a spot. While onto the demand side, onto the demand side, the recession fears continue unabated despite some recent softening. We hold the view that the recession in US particularly and the EU would not be going away anytime soon. So the impact on the likely demand would be there. The growth in effect would be more muted than what we are currently witnessing now. So all these factors would continue to bear pressure onto the demand, while surprisingly and thankfully, the supply side does not seem to have any concern across all major producing centers in the world. So we are in a situation that the market is well supplied, healthy oversupply, and the prices have to reflect. Now, coming back to the second part of the question as to where do we see the price trend continuing? Yes, last week's correction of more than 10% has surprised even us. We had maintained a bearish call. We had clearly called out that it will not be volatile. So it turned out right, but it did surprise us to the extent of bearishness. I believe that the markets would take a bit of a breather and a pause. We are not likely to be seeing a similar decline immediately, but the trend would continue to be bearish in the coming week.
Markets don't look positive clearly, but at least there's a ray of hope with the supply side.
Yes, supplies are looking good.
My next question to you is, do you expect furnace oil and bitumen prices to weaken in the coming days?
Good question. And furnace oil is little too strongly linked to the crude. So it is difficult to imagine in a situation where the crude has declined by 10% in a week, furnace oil not to get impacted. So in the week ahead, the furnace oil, yes, would be impacted, and it is likely to hold flat or in a slight decline. While coming to the bitumen, which is linked not only to the crude, but to the gas oil and the fuel oil. So, but the scale of this recent downturn in crude is going to soften the recent increase in the bitumen price, which was driven largely by the demand side uptick. So I guess the momentum of the crude price or the scale of the crude price decline would tend to halt the increase or limit the increase of the bitumen prices over the coming week.
Well, thank you so much for your insight into the market and thank you for being here today. As always, it
Thank
was
you. It's been a
a
pleasure.
pleasure. Same. And thank you
Thank you.
all for watching. Continue to show support to the channel by liking and subscribing. See you soon.